A 6-year-old girl dreamed only of her father's love, never imagining that her stepmother hid such cruelty. Behind fake smiles lay secret punishments, humiliations, and scars that only silence revealed, until a tragedy exposed the truth and paved the way for justice against those who wanted to destroy her. One day, the millionaire father comes home early and sees a scene he will never forget. If the story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. 6-year-old Emma Parker stared out the window of her father's Tesla as they drove through the tree-lined streets of Palo Alto. Ever since her mother passed away 3 years ago, it had been just her and her father, Nathan Parker, a rising star in Silicon Valley's electric vehicle industry. The sprawling mansion they called home felt emptier without her mother's laughter, but Emma had learned to cherish the moments her busy father could spare for her. "Honey, I want you to meet someone special today," Nathan said, his eyes flickering between the road and the rearview mirror. "Diane is going to be part of our family now." Emma had met Diane Blackwell several times before. She was beautiful, with perfectly styled blonde hair and a dazzling smile that seemed to entrance her father. When they arrived home, Diane was waiting, wearing an elegant summer dress and holding a wrapped gift. "There's my favorite little girl," Diane exclaimed, kneeling down to Emma's level. Her father beamed at the sight, desperate to believe his new marriage would restore what Emma had lost. The first few weeks were filled with pancake breakfasts, movie nights, and tender moments that made Nathan believe he had made the right choice. But Emma noticed how Diane's smile would fade the moment her father left for work. The warm voice would turn cold, the gentle hands would grip her arm too tightly, and the kind words would transform into harsh commands. "Your father thinks you're a princess," Diane whispered one afternoon, watching Emma color at the kitchen table. "But I know better. In this house, you're going to learn what real life is about." By the time Nathan returned home each evening, the house was picture perfect. Emma learned to stay quiet about the long hours spent scrubbing bathrooms and polishing floors while other children played. She learned to hide the bruises from when Diane accidentally bumped into her or pinched her under the table during family dinners. "You'll never tell your father," Diane warned. "He'd never believe you anyway. Men like your father only see what they want to see." One evening, Nathan came home earlier than expected. Walking through the door, he froze at the sight of Emma kneeling on the kitchen floor, washing Diane's feet in a basin of water. His briefcase slipped from his fingers with a thud. "What's happening here?" he asked, his voice barely audible. Diane's expression shifted seamlessly into one of affectionate amusement. "Oh, Nathan, Emma wanted to play spa day. Isn't she the sweetest? She insisted on giving me a pedicure." Emma looked up at her father, her small hands red and wrinkled from the soapy water, her eyes silently pleading. But Nathan, exhausted from negotiating with investors and desperate to believe in his perfect new family, chose to see what he wanted to see. "That's my little helper," he said with a strained smile, ruffling Emma's hair before heading upstairs to change. That night, Emma heard Diane on the phone in the hallway. "Mother, I need your help with the situation here." "No, he suspects nothing. The little brat is becoming a problem, though. Yes, come as soon as you can." 3 days later, Barbara Blackwell arrived with 3 suitcases and a calculating smile. Emma's last ally, their longtime housekeeper Margaret, was dismissed that same afternoon. "We don't need extra eyes around here," Barbara explained to Nathan. "Besides, Diane and I can manage the household just fine." As her father became increasingly absorbed in launching his company's new self-driving vehicle line, Emma's world shrank to endless chores, whispered threats, and carefully orchestrated family moments designed to maintain the illusion of happiness. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing, and even Nathan couldn't ignore the growing shadows in his daughter's eyes forever. The Silicon Valley sunshine beat down on the Parker estate as Emma stood in the spacious kitchen, her small frame barely reaching the marble countertop. Barbara supervised while Diane prepared a lavish breakfast spread, the weekly ritual Nathan insisted upon, despite his crushing work schedule. "Smile. Little girl," Barbara hissed under her breath as Nathan's footsteps approached. "Your father's coming." Nathan entered wearing his standard uniform, designer jeans and a cashmere sweater, his phone perpetually in hand. He kissed Emma's forehead, barely noticing her flinch. "There's my favorite girls," he announced, sliding into his seat at the head of the table. Emma watched as Diane placed a perfect plate of eggs Benedict before him. Under the table, away from Nathan's view, Diane's manicured nails dug into Emma's thigh, a silent warning to maintain the charade. Emma bit her lip to keep from crying out. "The Henderson deal is nearly closed," Nathan told Diane proudly. "Once we secure their backing, Parker Tech's solar-powered fleet will revolutionize the industry." Diane's eyes glittered with interest. "That's wonderful, darling. How much is the investment worth?" As Nathan detailed the millions at stake, Emma noticed the exchange of glances between Diane and Barbara. Something calculating passed between them, something that made Emma's stomach tighten with dread. Later that afternoon, with Nathan gone again, Barbara cornered Emma in the laundry room. "Your father's too busy for you," she said, loading Emma's arms with heavy bed sheets. "That's why he got Diane, to take care of his little problem while he makes his fortune." "That's not true," Emma whispered, her voice finding rare courage. "Daddy loves me." The slap came quickly, leaving a red mark on Emma's cheek. "Don't talk back," Barbara warned. "Now clean these sheets and then scrub all the bathrooms. We're having guests tomorrow." From her bedroom window, Emma spotted Margaret, their former housekeeper, walking past the estate gates. Their eyes met briefly before Margaret hurried away, her expression troubled. The next day, while Barbara napped and Diane was busy on the phone with her friends, Emma slipped into the garden. Diane had pointed to the large oak tree at the property's edge, where a beehive hung from a high branch. "We need fresh honey for the party," Diane had instructed. "Climb up and get some." Emma stared up at the massive tree, its lowest branches still far above her head. She dragged a garden chair over and climbed on it, stretching toward the first branch. "Higher," Diane called from the patio, sipping her wine. "Don't be such a baby." Emma's foot slipped as she reached the third branch. The fall happened in slow motion, her small body tumbling through leaves, hitting branches on the way down. Then came the angry buzz as the disturbed hive unleashed its defenders. Stings covered her arms and face as she screamed, rolling on the ground in pain. Nathan's car screeched into the driveway just as the chaos peaked. He ran to Emma, his face contorted with horror. "What happened?" he demanded, scooping his daughter into his arms. "She wanted to climb the tree," Diane explained smoothly. "I told her it was dangerous, but she's so headstrong." Nathan didn't wait for more explanations. He rushed Emma to the hospital, her face swelling rapidly from the stings. Dr. Jessica Wright examined Emma carefully in the emergency room, her professional demeanor cooling as she noted multiple bruises in various stages of healing. "Mr. Parker," she said quietly, "Emma's showing signs of severe allergic reaction to the stings, but I'm also concerned about these other marks, and she's underweight for her age." Nathan stared at his daughter, truly seeing her for the first time in months. The thin frame, the haunted eyes, the fading bruises on her arms. "Could we speak privately?" Dr. Wright asked, nodding toward her office. As they spoke, a familiar face appeared in the doorway, Margaret, who worked part-time at the hospital. "Mr. Parker," Margaret said, her voice trembling, "there's something you need to know about what's been happening to Emma when you're not home." The color drained from Nathan's face as Margaret described what she had witnessed before her dismissal. The forced chores, the accidents, the emotional torment. With each revelation, his world crumbled further. "I thought I was giving her a mother," he whispered, the weight of his failure crushing him. "I thought I was making our family whole again." Dr. Wright placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's not too late to protect your daughter, Mr. Parker, but you need to act now." The tires of Nathan's Tesla squealed against the driveway as he returned home, his hands still shaking with rage and guilt. Emma remained at the hospital under Dr. Wright's care, safely away from the confrontation that was about to unfold. He burst through the front door to find Diane and Barbara in the living room, glasses of expensive Chardonnay in their hands, discussing renovation plans for Emma's bedroom. "We could convert it into a proper home office," Barbara was saying. "The child hardly needs all that space." Diane spotted Nathan first, her practiced smile freezing as she registered his expression. "Nathan, darling, how's Emma?" "We've been so worried." "Pack your things," he interrupted, his voice deadly quiet. "Both of you. You have 30 minutes to get out of my house." Barbara set down her wineglass with deliberate slowness. "Now, Nathan, you're upset. Whatever that child told you—" "Emma told me nothing," Nathan cut in. "She didn't have to. Dr. Wright found evidence of systematic abuse. Margaret confirmed everything. I saw the bruises myself. Diane's mask slipped, revealing a flash of cold calculation before she recovered. You'd believe a fired employee over your own wife. Nathan, I love Emma like my own daughter. I found her on her knees again this morning, Nathan said, pulling out his phone. So I installed security cameras throughout the house last week. I've seen everything. The lie worked. Panic flashed across both women's faces as they exchanged glances. You have no right, Barbara sputtered. 25 minutes now, Nathan replied, checking his watch. Leave your keys on the table. Anything you don't take will be donated. As the two women scrambled upstairs, Nathan sank into an armchair, his head in his hands. How had he been so blind? His ambition, his desire to recreate a perfect family, had nearly cost him everything that truly mattered. Across town, in a dimly lit bar, Richard Hamilton nursed a scotch. As Nathan's attorney for 15 years, he had helped build Parker Tech from the ground up. But when Nathan promoted a younger lawyer to lead counsel last month, the betrayal stung. 30 years of legal practice, and now he was being sidelined. Another, he motioned to the bartender. A perfumed presence slid onto the stool beside him. Drinking alone, counselor. Richard turned to find Diane Blackwell, her eyes red-rimmed but calculating. Mrs. Parker, he acknowledged stiffly. Please call me Diane, she purred. I believe we have something in common. And what would that be? Nathan Parker has underestimated us both, she said, signaling for a drink. And now he's going to pay. Behind them, Barbara secured a corner booth, beckoning them over. For the next hour, fueled by alcohol and shared resentment, they hatched a plan. Richard knew every detail of Nathan's finances, every vulnerability in his corporate structure. With falsified documents and carefully manipulated evidence, they could drain his accounts and seize control of his most valuable patents. He'll be left with nothing, Richard promised, the alcohol loosening his ethics along with his tongue. Meanwhile, Emma was released from the hospital into a transformed home. Margaret had been reinstated with a substantial raise. A kind-faced nurse named Olivia was hired to oversee Emma's recovery. Nathan converted his home office into a bedroom so he could sleep closer to his daughter. I'm not going anywhere, he promised Emma as he tucked her in that night. Not ever again. Emma clutched her teddy bear, Mr. Whiskers, the one possession Diane hadn't managed to take from her. Inside the bear, hidden in the stuffing, were dozens of folded papers, drawings of her experiences, words cut from magazines expressing feelings she couldn't articulate, a child's desperate attempt to process trauma. Daddy, she whispered, are they coming back? No, sweetheart. I promise they can't hurt you anymore. But outside the Parker estate, Barbara sat in a rental car, watching the lights go out one by one. Her childhood had been defined by deprivation. A father who abandoned them, a mother who worked 3 jobs and still couldn't afford heat in winter. She had raised Diane to seize opportunity at any cost, to never show weakness. We deserve that house, she muttered, starting the engine. We deserve everything he has. Back at their hotel suite, Diane methodically applied her night cream, her movements precise, despite her inner turmoil. Growing up under Barbara's exacting standards had taught her that affection was conditional, that security came only through control and calculation. She had never wanted a stepdaughter. She had wanted Nathan's wealth, his status, the security that had always eluded her. The girl ruined everything, she told her reflection. But not for long. The Parker Tech headquarters buzzed with activity as Nathan reviewed security measures with his team. 2 weeks had passed since he'd expelled Diane and Barbara from his home, and Emma was slowly regaining her spark. The nightmares still came, but less frequently. Dr. Andrea Sullivan, a child psychologist recommended by Dr. Wright, visited 3 times weekly, helping Emma express her feelings through art and play therapy. Mr. Parker, his assistant interrupted. The security consultant is here for your meeting. Nathan nodded, gathering his files. Tell him I'll be right there. Back at the mansion, Margaret and Emma sat in the garden planting sunflower seeds in small pots. These will grow taller than you by summer's end, Margaret explained, helping Emma pat soil around the seeds. Can we plant enough for Daddy to see from his office window? Emma asked, her voice stronger than it had been in months. That's a wonderful idea, Margaret smiled. A surprise for your father. Inside the house, Olivia prepared a healthy dinner, following the nutritionist's plan to help Emma regain the weight she'd lost. The evening routine had become sacred. Dinner together at 6, followed by reading time, a warm bath, and bedtime at 8:30 sharp. Nathan had rearranged his entire schedule around these hours, delegating meetings and conference calls to ensure he never missed them. As twilight settled over the garden, the security lights suddenly went out. "That's strange." Margaret frowned, looking toward the house. "Let's go inside, Emma." They had only taken a few steps when dark figures emerged from behind the tall hedges. Margaret pulled Emma close, but a man in a ski mask grabbed the child, while another restrained Margaret. "No!" Margaret screamed as they dragged Emma away. "Help! Olivia!" Olivia ran outside at the commotion, but it was too late. A van screeched away down the private road, carrying Emma into the night. Nathan was mid-meeting when his phone rang. Seeing Margaret's name, he excused himself. "Margaret, what?" "They took her," Margaret sobbed. "They took Emma. The security system went down and—" Nathan's world stopped. "Call 911, he ordered. "I'm on my way." 30 minutes later, his phone rang again. Unknown number. "Parker," he answered, his voice tight. "Missing something?" Diane's voice was smooth as silk. Nathan gripped the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. "If you hurt her—" "She's fine. For now." Diane's tone hardened. "But her future well-being depends entirely on you. What do you want?" "Everything, Nathan. The Palo Alto house. Your shares in Parker Tech. The patents for the solar battery technology. Sign it all over and you get Emma back. I need proof she's okay." A moment later, his phone chimed with a photo of Emma, clutching Mr. Whiskers, her eyes wide with fear. Detective James Reeves arrived with a team of officers as Nathan was staring at the image. "Mr. Parker, we'll need details about your ex-wife and her mother," Reeves said, his weathered face serious but calm, "and anyone else who might be involved." "My former attorney, Richard Hamilton," Nathan said, the pieces falling into place. "He was recently so demoted." Reeves nodded, making notes. "Is there anything special about the bear your daughter is holding in this photo?" Nathan frowned. "Mr. Whiskers, there's just her favorite toy." Margaret stepped forward. "That's not entirely true, sir. Emma and we created a system after Mrs. Parker started being cruel to her. I showed Emma how to express her feelings by writing them down or making drawings, then hiding them inside Mr. Whiskers." "Smart," Reeves commented. "Kids find ways to cope. Those notes could help us understand what Emma experienced. How does this help us find her?" Nathan demanded. "It might not," Reeves admitted. "But knowing your daughter gives us insight." He turned to his team. "Start tracing the cell signal from that photo. Check properties connected to Hamilton, Diane, and Barbara Blackwell." Meanwhile, in a decrepit warehouse on the outskirts of San Jose, Emma sat huddled in a corner, whispering to Mr. Whiskers. "We'll be okay," she murmured, stroking the worn fur. "Daddy will find us." Richard paced nervously nearby, his designer suit incongruous against the dusty concrete floor. "This wasn't the plan," he muttered to Barbara. "Kidnapping is federal." "If we're caught—" "We won't be," Barbara snapped. "Once Nathan signs everything over, we'll be out of the country before anyone knows what happened." Diane checked her watch impatiently. "He's taking too long. Call him again." As Richard dialed, Emma carefully worked a small folded paper from inside Mr. Whiskers. On it, in crayon, she had drawn her biggest fear: Diane as a towering shadow over her and her father. But she had also drawn something else, a sun breaking through clouds. Hope. "Your daddy's being difficult," Diane told Emma coldly. "Tell him you want to come home." Emma clutched Mr. Whiskers tighter. Inside the bear was every memory, every moment of fear and hope she'd experienced, and unknown to her captors, something else, a small tracking device Nathan had sewn into all of Emma's favorite toys after bringing her home from the hospital. Back at the mansion, Detective Reeves' phone pinged. "We've got a location." Rain pounded against the warehouse windows as Nathan arrived with a manila envelope tucked under his arm. Detective Reeves and his team were positioned strategically around the building, waiting for Nathan's signal. "Remember," Reeves had instructed, "stall them. Get visual confirmation that Emma is safe. The moment you're sure, use the code phrase." Inside, Richard opened a side door, ushering Nathan into the damp space. The attorney's hand trembled slightly as he patted Nathan down for a wire or weapon. You came alone, Richard stated. Not a question. You didn't leave me much choice, Nathan replied coldly. Where's my daughter? Richard led him deeper into the warehouse, where Diane sat at a folding table, papers spread before her. Barbara stood guard by a makeshift partition of wooden crates behind which Nathan could hear soft whimpering. Emma, he called out. Daddy! Her small voice broke on the word. Nathan lunged toward the sound, but Richard blocked his path. Papers first, the lawyer insisted. Let me see her, Nathan demanded. Barbara reluctantly moved aside the crates, revealing Emma huddled on a dirty mattress, still clutching Mr. Whiskers. Her face lit up at the sight of her father. You see? She's fine, Diane said dismissively. Now everything is prepared. All you need to do is sign. Nathan approached the table, scanning the documents with practiced efficiency, transfer deeds for his properties, stock certificates, patent assignments, all prepared with disturbing thoroughness. You've been planning this for some time, he observed, meeting Richard's gaze. The lawyer looked away first. Just sign the papers, Nathan. Nathan uncapped his pen, poising it over the first document. And once I sign, you'll let us go? Diane and Barbara exchanged glances. Of course, Diane lied smoothly. Nathan's pen hovered over the signature line. I need to hold my daughter first. After you sign, Barbara insisted. No, now. Nathan's voice left no room for negotiation. Or I walk out and take my chances with the FBI. After a tense moment, Barbara nodded to Richard, who reluctantly fetched Emma. The moment his daughter was in his arms, Nathan whispered, Look at those clouds outside. Looks like we're in for a real downpour. The code phrase spoken, Nathan clutched Emma tightly as the warehouse doors burst open. Detective Reeves and his team swarmed in, weapons drawn. Police! Everybody down. In the chaos that followed, Richard made a desperate lunge, knife in hand. Nathan twisted, shielding Emma with his body, taking a glancing blow to his shoulder. Officers tackled Richard to the ground, while others secured Diane and Barbara, who shrieked accusations at each other, even as they were being handcuffed. Outside, sheltered from the rain under a police tent, paramedics treated Nathan's wound while Emma refused to leave his side. You found me, she whispered, her small hand in his. I will always find you, he promised, tears mixing with raindrops on his face. The following weeks brought a flurry of legal proceedings. The evidence against the conspirators was overwhelming. Security footage from Nathan's home, testimony from Margaret and Olivia, Richard's paper trail of falsified documents, and most damning of all, Emma's hidden drawings and notes from inside Mr. Whiskers. During the trial, Emma's child psychologist, Dr. Sullivan, presented these artifacts to the court, explaining how they documented the systematic emotional and physical abuse Emma had endured. The drawings, a child's desperate record of truth, moved the jury visibly. One image in particular, showing Emma and her father surrounded by a heart, while dark shadows loomed outside, became symbolic of the case in media coverage. When the verdict came down, it was decisive. Lengthy prison sentences for Diane, Barbara and Richard, along with their hired accomplices, financial restitution that would never be paid in full, restraining orders that would extend well beyond prison terms. 6 months after the ordeal, Nathan sat in the garden with Emma, admiring the sunflowers that now stood tall against the summer sky. Parker Tech had weathered the storm. In fact, the publicity surrounding the case had brought unexpected attention to Nathan's dedication to sustainable technology. Daddy, Emma asked, setting aside her drawing pad, are you still sad? Nathan considered the question carefully. Sometimes, he admitted, I'm sad that I didn't protect you sooner. I'm sad that I was so busy with work that I didn't see what was happening. But you did protect me, Emma insisted. You came for me. I'll always come for you, he promised, pulling her close. And I've learned what's truly important. The lessons had indeed been profound. Nathan had restructured his company to allow for a healthier work-life balance, not just for himself but for all employees with families. He had established a foundation to support children recovering from trauma with Dr. Wright and Dr. Sullivan on the board. And most importantly, he had learned to truly see his daughter, her strength, her resilience, and her extraordinary capacity for joy, despite everything she had endured. 2 years later, The Parker home was unrecognizable from the austere showcase it had once been. Colorful artwork, mostly Emma's, adorned the walls. The formal dining room had been converted into a massive art studio. The garden flourished with wildflowers planted by Emma's own hands. Mr. Whiskers, now somewhat threadbare from constant love, had been joined by a menagerie of stuffed animals, each with its own name and story. Most evenings found Nathan and Emma engaged in their favorite ritual, sitting together on the porch swing, watching the sunset, planning adventures, or simply being present with each other. Sometimes they spoke of that difficult time, processing it with honesty and growing understanding. More often, they focused on building new memories to eclipse the shadows of the past. True wealth, Nathan often reflected, isn't measured in patents or properties. It was measured in the sound of his daughter's laughter, in the knowledge that she felt safe enough to dream again, in the privilege of watching her grow into her own remarkable person.